Springtime in rural Montana was a mixed blessing. The blooming wildflowers and greening fields heralded the end of winter, but the season also brought fierce storms. Bill Thompson, a tow truck driver for the small town of Deer Creek, knew these storms all too well. He had spent countless nights rescuing stranded motorists from muddy ditches and flooded back roads. Tonight, however, the storm felt different, more sinister and foreboding. The rain came down in torrents, turning the narrow two-lane highway into a river of mud and water. Thunder rolled across the sky, and lightning illuminated the dark landscape in blinding flashes. Bill navigated his tow truck through the storm, the wipers working furiously to keep the windshield clear. He had received a call about a stranded motorist on Route 12, a particularly desolate stretch of road that wound through the mountains. As he approached the reported location, Bill's headlights caught sight of something on the side of the road. It was a young woman, soaked to the bone, her thumb outstretched in a classic hitchhiking gesture. She wore an old-fashioned white dress that clung to her body, and her long, dark hair hung in wet strands around her pale face. Bill pulled over, curiosity and concern mingling in his mind. The woman approached the truck, her movements slow and deliberate. Bill rolled down his window, letting in the chill of the rain. "Need a lift?" he asked, trying to sound reassuring despite the eerie feeling creeping up his spine. "Please," she replied, her voice soft and distant, like a whisper carried on the wind. "I need your help." Bill unlocked the door, and the woman climbed into the passenger seat. She didn't look at him directly, her gaze fixed somewhere in the distance. "What's your name?" Bill asked, trying to start a conversation to break the uneasy silence. "Emily," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "Where are you headed, Emily?" he asked, though something told him she wasn't just a regular hitchhiker. "There's been an accident," she said, finally turning to look at him. Her eyes were wide and filled with an urgency that sent a shiver down Bill's spine. "You have to help her." Bill's heart skipped a beat. "Who? Where?" "Just up ahead, near the old oak tree," Emily said, pointing into the darkness. "She's trapped and needs your help." Bill drove slowly, scanning the roadside for any sign of an accident. The storm raged on, the rain hammering against the truck's roof. Suddenly, a flash of lightning illuminated the landscape, and Bill saw it, a car, overturned in a ditch, partially hidden by the undergrowth. He pulled over and grabbed his flashlight, his heart pounding in his chest. Emily remained silent, her gaze fixed on the wreck. Bill rushed to the car, the beam of his flashlight cutting through the rain. Inside, he saw a young woman, unconscious and covered in blood, trapped by the twisted metal of the car. "Hang on. I'm here to help," Bill shouted, though he wasn't sure if she could hear him. He worked quickly, his hands moving with practiced precision. Years of experience had taught him how to handle these situations, but tonight felt different. It was as if an unseen force was guiding his actions, helping him navigate the chaos. He managed to pry open the door and carefully extricate the woman from the wreckage. As he carried her to the truck, he felt a strange warmth envelop him, like a protective embrace. He looked back at Emily, who stood watching with a serene expression. Bill laid the young woman in the back seat of his truck and turned to thank Emily, but she was gone. He looked around, but there was no sign of her. Confused but determined, he climbed into the driver's seat and sped towards the nearest hospital, keeping an eye on his precious cargo. The young woman began to stir as they neared the town. Bill glanced back and was struck by a sudden realization. He recognized her from photos. It was Sarah, his stepson Jake's girlfriend. She had been driving to Deer Creek to meet him for the first time. "Sarah, can you hear me?" Bill asked, his voice filled with concern. Sarah's eyes fluttered open, and she looked at him, dazed but conscious. "Bill? What happened?" "You were in an accident," he said gently. "But you're going to be okay. We're almost at the hospital." At the hospital, doctors and nurses rushed to take Sarah into the emergency room. Bill waited anxiously, his mind racing. The events of the night felt like a blur, and he couldn't shake the image of Emily from his mind. Who was she? And how had she known about the accident? Hours passed before a doctor finally emerged. "Mr. Thompson, Sarah is stable. She's going to be fine, thanks to you." Relief washed over Bill, but questions still lingered. As he sat in the waiting room, Jake arrived, his face a mix of fear and confusion. "Dad, what happened? Is Sarah okay?" "She's going to be fine, son," Bill reassured him. "But there's something I need to tell you." As they sat together, Bill recounted the events of the night. Jake listened in stunned silence, his eyes wide with disbelief. "Dad, that sounds unbelievable," Jake said, shaking his head. "Are you sure you weren't imagining things?" "I'm sure," Bill replied firmly. "Emily was real, and she led me to Sarah. I don't know how or why, but she was there." Determined to find answers, Bill began researching local legends and stories about Route 12. He discovered an old newspaper article about a young woman named Emily who had died in a car accident near the same spot where he had found Sarah. She had been driving in a storm, much like the one that had raged that night. According to the article, Emily's body had been found by a passerby, but her spirit was said to haunt the road, guiding those in need of help. Bill felt a chill run down his spine as he read the details. Could it be that Emily's spirit had returned to save Sarah? Over the next few days, Sarah recovered in the hospital, and Bill and Jake stayed by her side. They talked about the strange events, trying to make sense of what had happened. Sarah remembered little about the accident, only that she had felt a strange sense of calm before she lost consciousness. One evening, as they sat together, Sarah shared a story that sent shivers down Bill's spine. "I remember Jake telling me about his sister, Emily. He said she died in a car accident when he was just a baby." Bill's heart skipped a beat. "Emily was your sister?" Jake nodded, his eyes filled with tears. "I never really knew her, but Mom and Dad used to talk about her all the time before their divorce. They said she was kind and always looked out for others." The realization hit Bill like a lightning bolt. The Emily who had guided him that night was his stepson's long-since-deceased sister, watching over them from beyond the grave. With this new understanding, Bill felt a sense of peace he hadn't known in years. He visited Emily's grave, bringing flowers and sitting in silence, thanking her for her guidance and protection. As the weeks passed, Sarah made a full recovery, and life began to return to normal. But the events of that stormy night had changed them all. Bill, Jake, and Sarah knew that Emily was still with them, watching over their family. The legend of the ghostly hitchhiker of Route 12 spread through Deer Creek, becoming part of the town's lore. People spoke of Emily's spirit with reverence, grateful for the guardian who watched over their desolate stretch of highway. Bill and Jake's relationship grew stronger after the incident. They spent more time together, Jake sharing stories of Emily he had been told by his birth parents. Sarah became a beloved member of the Thompson family, her bond with Jake deepening as they planned their future together. One sunny afternoon, Bill, Jake, and Sarah took a drive along Route 12, revisiting the spot where the accident had occurred. They stood by the old oak tree, holding hands and feeling Emily's presence with them. As they looked out over the vast, open landscape, Bill felt a sense of gratitude and peace. The storm had brought them together, revealing the enduring bond of family and the power of love that transcended even death. And so, the guardian of Route 12 continued to watch over her chosen family, a silent protector in the desolate beauty of the Montana landscape, her spirit living on in the hearts of those she had saved.